Hi, I'm Glenn. I'm the editor of the International Journal for Information and Learning Technology from Emerald. It's a great pleasure being able to talk to you and share my thoughts on remote teaching, learning and collaboration and what it really means for me as an editor, but also somebody who's heavily involved with teaching and learning. I'm also director here for a Centre for Teaching and Learning at KAUST. So I'd like to just discuss with you what it means to me. I think two things that really are animated for me. Obviously COVID-19, like most people, and obviously that's changed things quite dramatically in terms of online learning. But I think the other issue for me, I've just moved continents. I've just moved from Southeast Asia, and I've just now currently moved to the Middle East. And so in ways I'm surrounded by the desert, which is obviously a completely new experience for me. And I think also that obviously animates the kind of issues of remoteness. So when I was asked by Emerald to briefly talk on this issue, I think it obviously became very pertinent to me on two levels for COVID-19, but also in terms of the location I'm based in. I think the thing that's also quite unusual in terms of where I'm based as well is that in KAUST, where the university I'm based at, so it's the infrastructure in terms of for online learning is super impressive. So the bandwidth is not an issue in any possible way. So we're very well placed for offering something quite unique in terms of online learning. One thing I was really conscious of as well when I moved here is that the experience here is relatively personalized in terms of staff-student ratio numbers. So again, that changes things in terms of the online experience. But then how does that translate to an online experience? And that also made me reflect back on one of the reasons I moved to Asia around 10 years ago. I was particularly interested in the roots of pedagogy from a particular perspective. So as a consequence, it made me really look deeply into what pedagogy means, but what pedagogy means in different cultural contexts. And that's something that stayed with me, and it's one of the things that primarily motivates me when I look at this type of area in terms of teaching and learning. So for me, pedagogy takes us back to what the roots are of pedagogy, and for me that is dialogue, and it's finding dialogue in whatever way that might be. And I think so when I was asked to briefly talk on remote teaching, learning and collaboration, so that really resonated with me in terms of, for me, you see good education when you really connect with people, I feel. And if that's online or in person, and hence dialogue. And that's one of the drivers for me. But I think to really achieve that in different contexts or international contexts, especially for online learning, you need a really good understanding of the cultural context you're in. And I think some of it you might say is being global, yes, but some of it also you see those little small differences. And I think that's what I've really learned over the past 10 years, I'd say, in terms of online provision. Yeah, probably 90% is actually quite similar. But it's that 10% difference that can make all the difference in connecting with people online. So it's having some kind of recognition of those kind of partnerships and relationships in terms of the teaching learning process. So I think, and also if you look back at the roots of pedagogy, you see naturally very personalized approach to learning. And at the same time, if you're looking at future directions in teaching and learning, you also see this push for personalized learning. And increasingly a new wave of learner experiences, learner experience platforms. And in many ways, the learner experience platforms you also see being driven by increasingly artificial intelligence. So the AI, the artificial intelligence is also, you see as a way of, which is pushing forward the personalized again. I see two big types of platforms for me in terms of what I'm interested in terms of online learning. You see the big MOOC platforms, which has had a profound impact in trying to level education and reach masses of people. So you see that in a way is actually really impressive in the sense that it's reaching out from formal, informal, non-formal learning. So the MOOCs have clearly had an important role to play, and I've really welcomed the opportunity to work with Coursera in this area in terms of consumption as an institution, but also that also produces content for Coursera. At the same time, I can see there's limitations for certain types of people who want a slightly more personalized experience. And here I think I'm also pushing on the learner experience platforms and how we can use that and customize that within the context I'm in. At the moment, I'm in a Middle Eastern context with significant international collaborations internationally. So you can see two platforms. The mass education that's reaching out was obviously really important, but also you can see a need to connect with people. And for certain people, there's a need for more personalized learner experience. And I still feel when you're looking for real deep collaborations, then this is something that fascinates me in terms of how software development is taking place and developing over time in those kind of areas that kind of move from what you might call personalized learning, personal learning, and now maybe increasingly so in terms of the learner experiences to enhance the learner experience. And when I came here, that was really relevant to when I moved here to the Middle East, in particular to KAUST, where you see, for instance, the staff-student ratios are actually very small here, typically around 1 to 5 in terms of the relationships. So it creates quite a unique experience with a very impressive campus. But at the same time, how can you replicate that online? And just to explore briefly, SDG 4, or the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which is education for all, which again, I know Emerald as a company is very passionate around the SDG goals and trying to align with the SDG goals. And it's something that I also am very committed towards. But 3 areas I took from the Sustainable Development Goal 4. And in particular, I'd say inclusion. How do we create a more universal design, inclusive education? But that's also culturally relevant for people. I think that's particularly important. So inclusion that also connects with people on various levels. And I think secondly, the lifelong learning. So here you can see the bridging of formal, non-formal, informal learning. And I think that really makes it really fascinating online, especially with the big MOOC platforms that reaches out to both in the formal but also the informal space. But also you can see the personalized learning. Again, it's relevant within the training sector, the more standard university courses, but also for the wider community who are looking for more specialized learning experiences. And I think thirdly, how does that become relevant? How does it impact on society? And so that they're really 3 guiding principles I take from SDG 4. So the inclusion, the lifelong learning approach, education for all, that has impact on wider society. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I'd welcome submissions to the International Journal for Information and Learning Technology on any of these areas related to both in-person, online learning, blended learning, and in particular, if you conducting research that aligns and ties in with the SDG 4, it'd be wonderful to receive submissions from you. It's been a pleasure just sharing my experiences and what's important to me in terms of remote teaching, learning and collaboration.